Was that a bit dramatic?
Yeah.
Okay. It's like news at 10.
Ta-da!
Bong. Coming up, the week that changed media forever. Hello and welcome to IDCOM's MediaSnack, episode 68. So on this...
Why are you wearing your badge?
Well, that's a good question. I've just got back from the ANA's media conference in Florida, and we're going to spend a bit of time talking about that because Marc Pritchard, head of marketing, P&G, has changed the media supply chain forever.
Wow, that's a bold statement.
All coming up on today's MediaSnack in just the time it takes to eat a sandwich. Right, so let's dig straight in. So last week was the ANA's media conference. So it's their big kind of media conference of the year. We thought it was going to be big and it was huge. It was the best attended of their media conferences ever, not least, I think, because Marc Pritchard, the chief brand officer of P&G, was making the keynote address, which was the second kind of iteration, if you like, of his media transparency action plan that we'd reviewed on a previous episode.
But before we delve into that, and that's what everybody wants to hear about, let's get the boring bit out of the way. You were on a panel.
I was. Thanks, mate. I was. Thanks. So, I was. On the first day of the conference, I was delighted to be invited and get this nifty little badge with the speaker bit, which doesn't get you free drinks or anything. To be invited to sit on a panel alongside marketers and agencies talking about media pitches. Obviously, there's a lot of attention. We had about 400 or 500 people in the room there. It was really busy. It was great. But just talking about pitches, in somewhat the impact of ANA's media transparency work and really how that had changed the pitch. But I think the most interesting part, which we've talked about on MediaSnack and shared with you quite a lot, is this idea of media change and that the advertiser's brief to an agency has changed quite significantly. And the most interesting, we got lots of questions from the audience. The most interesting one actually was about how to evaluate agencies in pitches, and which we talked about the framework of looking not just at the commercial part, but also looking at the capabilities of agencies and the cultural fit or the chemistry of agencies.
And the weighting between all of these
and
elements.
how you weight them,
And how important that is, because it sends an enormous message out to the agencies that are participating in the review as to how they will be expected to put their best foot forward. Right?
Exactly, and that's what we're hopeful for, and that's what we're trying to push. It's more than just a pricing exercise. So there's lots of discussion about that. Very positive. But the big draw, apart from obviously me on the panel, which really got everybody to Orlando, but whilst they were there, Marc Pritchard thought that he'd have a go,
Follow you up.
Yeah, follow up. So he got the keynote, which was amazing. So I'm joking aside, this was Marc's follow-up to his barnstorming, speech that changed the world type thing that he did at the IB back in January. And it was electric. It was incredible. Everybody was, anticipating what he was going to say as follow-up.
And what was it that made it so different to the delivery that he made at the IAB? Because it was still the same thing.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if the speech itself has been yet made available. It was being videoed, so I guess it will be released by the ANA in due course. So when you get to see it, what you'll see is Marc he reiterated his action plan, so the kind of 4 stages plus the vote with your dollars plea at the end, which will link to the previous episode, and you should just watch his first speech anyway, if you haven't seen that. This was a continuation of that, so he did a little recap of those points, and then what he did, which was a brilliant mechanic, was he created this thing called the head fake.
Right.
And the idea that is, these are the objections that you are going to get as marketers as you try to implement this action plan. And here's what we've heard as P&G in response to some of the questions that we've been asking for the last year. And so he went through this kind of call and response type mechanic. He'd say, head fake, we cannot accept this one, MRC single viewability standard response. And then he'd go on to detail what the response should be. The most interesting thing I think about the speech, which I said to you, was like the tone of his delivery. This was not this was not a standstill, impassioned kind of plea with crescendo and soundbite. He paced the stage, spoke really quickly. There was an urgency and an impatience about his delivery, and it was more like a briefing. Yeah. That's what it felt like. It was, he said, look, I've given you the plan, and now here are the objections you're going to hear, and here's how you're going to deal with them.
But that's brilliant because he had the audience, right? It's the A&A, so he had the marketing community there, and he was laying out an action plan for them to follow him.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just brilliant.
Yeah. So the first speech he'd kind of given and described those 5 areas. Right at the beginning of this speech, he said, "We are going to drill deeper, and I'm going to tell you how." It was like a briefing. So it was fascinating. It was, he's a great public speaker, very comfortable on the stage. Did a really good Q&A afterwards. But I think it's the tone of it that was so interesting.
Real leadership.
Yeah, real leadership. And this wasn't about P&G.
Yeah.
This was all about call to action. So he spoke for about 22, 23 minutes. The last 90 seconds at least, maybe the 2 minutes, was all about call to action. Just reiterating, the time is now. It's not optional. You have a responsibility to act. Let's come together. Yeah. This is the moment. We can do this. We need collective action. It was an amazing call to action.
And what was the reaction from the audience, and B, subsequent to the presentation, to the delivery in the kind of the halls of the conference centre?
It got everybody kind of buzzing afterwards. The most interesting thing actually was the following morning at breakfast. So they gather all the delegates together for breakfast. Every morning, and some people do some presentations that are quite interesting. During one of those presentations from ComScore, the host there just said to everybody casually in the room, do any of the marketers here, are you willing to kind of pledge now publicly your support for Marc Pritchard's action plan? I thought, oh God, nobody's going to...
It would take a brave marketer to say no.
Yeah, I know, but you think, you're kind of compelled to say yes. Yeah. But all hands went up.
Yeah, I bet.
Without hesitation. Bob Liadis, who's the CEO, as you know, of the A&A, and was kind of co-host with Marc, had said that the A&A, he would encourage A&A members to pledge their support, so quite formally to Marc's action plan, and to be really clear, this is an A&A action plan. The two things are absolutely linked together. Marc Pritchard is also the chair of the A&A, and he was there in that capacity as well. These things are very aligned. So, great speech, really clear action plan, very strong call to action. I think huge support from the delegates, certainly that I spoke to.
But is that it now? There. So he laid it out at the IAB. He's gone into greater detail and provide an action plan for marketeers to follow at the A&A.
Yeah.
What's the next in the series?
He's got more speeches coming up across this year, so we expect him to kind of evolve this narrative. I imagine he's taking it out. We know that he's on the agenda for the 4A's conference in April, and planning other things for the rest of the year. So this is, a huge commitment as well for Marc Pritchard. He's a busy man, to be taking time out of his year to make these very important addresses. And it sounds like this is going to be a consistent theme. Yeah. And it's going to be really interesting now, I think, in the next month or so, just to see. I'm convinced that you're going to see, significant support from other major advertisers kind of sign up. The other thing that the A&A did as well, my badge is getting in the way there, is they released, I think this is available for download on the A&A's website now, they released this amazing initiative called the CMO Masters Circle, which Marc, as chair, was very supportive of. And it says, taking our industry back. It's time for CMOs to lead the industry's growth again. And it's a 12-point plan, some of which are very similar and clearly aligned with P&G's media transparency action plan. This is a great initiative. This is great leadership from a trade organisation.
But what it does, it maintains momentum of the initiative. There's the danger that Marc stands up and delivers another rallying cry, and everybody goes back to their offices and gets involved in their kind of daily working challenges. that is designed to keep momentum of this moving forward and corral the marketing community to continue to do more.
Exactly. So it's a big kind of recruitment drive of support. I mean, the notable things at A&A Media for me was George Ivey was there, who's the CEO of the MRC, the Media Ratings Council, which obviously had got a huge amount of attention from Marc Pritchard in his speech. And so George was there, explaining a bit more actually about what these standards mean and how they do them. It's a very complex series of kind of audit and accreditation. It's not a simple, stamping paperwork job. They really do thorough auditing. So he was explaining that, and also making it clear to people that whilst people were celebrating that Google and Facebook had said that they would make themselves available for accreditation. He wanted to set the record straight to say they have not been accredited.
Right.
They are just in the process of going through this, and it will take some time. Yeah. So, don't get too carried away. They have to still go through the vetting process. It's a long, considered process. That was really good. And then the other really significant takeaway, I think, was I left with a real sense of marketers really taking control. I know that we've talked about that quite a lot, and it's on this agenda. Belinda Smith from Electronic Arts, talking about how their company had taken programmatic in-house. In fact, almost all media services kind of manage them in-house. There was this just consistent theme of hugely empowered, super smart marketers sharing stories, really energizing stories that were just courageous and confident. There's just this air of confidence and courage amongst the marketing community, which is great to see. And it's very exciting because that's the change that's just sweeping, I think, going to sweep through the industry, perhaps in the US before everywhere else, but it's going to become infectious, I think. It was great to see.
Fantastic. Great summary. Next up, as part of our Media Change webinar series, we're going to be hosting a webinar next Wednesday on the back of the publishing of our Media Thinking report that came out a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, which is really interesting. So we do these quarterly reports. You might have seen some of them in the past. This one is looking at, we called it Media Thinking, because everything has to start with T. But really it's looking at the level of strategic thinking. And strategic capabilities that there is around media. We ask around 200 advertisers from around the world. They represent about, I think it's $20-something billion worth of global media investment. So we think it's proportionally kind of representative. Some really interesting findings.
Yeah, I mean the first thing, and this is an obvious thing to say, almost all respondents thought that well-considered, strategically driven media will drive marketing performance, right?
So taking a strategic approach to media.
Right. The challenge that we found, or the biggest concern within the report, is that the industry is in deficit. So on both the advertiser and the agency side, both believed that the critical elements that go into delivering a strategic vision and a strategic plan in media actually fails to hit expectations. So the agencies felt that the quality of the briefing, the setting of the KPIs, the quality of the evaluation from the advertiser side was poor. And the advertisers felt actually that the work that was coming out of the agencies from a thought leadership perspective, from an insight and strategic perspective, was actually equally poor. So, we as an industry, we've got an enormous amount to do in this area.
So the findings are really interesting. Because it just paints a picture of a slightly insipid kind of ecosystem, doesn't it? And that's a shame. One of the things that we're going to talk about, in the webinar, we'll go deeper in each of these. It's divided into 5 areas, and provide you some of the kind of insight. And what we're going to suggest is some of the reasons we think why some of these things exist. I think that's probably the most interesting thing. For me, the thing that jumped out of this was where we asked whether advertisers generally saw media as a cost to be managed down or an investment in growth, and that's not good news. Both advertisers and their agencies much more inclined to suggest that advertisers still see media as a cost to be managed downwards, which is a shame.
But I think that's a legacy.
Yeah.
I think that we are seeing an enormous amount of reversal and recognition that media needs to be seen as an investment for growth.
Yeah.
We talk about change. We just talked about the massive momentum of change in the US.
Yeah.
When this is conducted again in a year's time, 18 months' time, I think we'll see an enormous difference in the results of that.
Let's hope so. So join the webinar. So it's next Wednesday, 15th of March. It's at 3 p.m. UK, which is going to be 11 a.m. Eastern with the time change. You can sign up with the links below and register. But I think that's all from MediaSnack this week. Bye for now.
Have a good weekend.